Welcome to this edition of Lamorinda Lending. Today is July 14th, and we have a beautiful, what day is it? It's a Tuesday. I can't even remember what day it is anymore. We have a wonderful guest here today. Her name is Dana Green of the Dana Green team. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Jennifer.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's been a roller coaster, but life is good.
I know it has been a roller coaster. Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
You're welcome.
I have known you for a long time because you were involved as the buying agent, or at least your team was, for when we purchased our house here in Moraga.
Yes, I know. I love hearing that you are happy and still in your house.
Yeah, we are. We're very happy. We're sort of growing out of it a little bit, but I don't know that we have any choice but to just continue to squeeze.
Yes.
So Dana, the reason we called you up to see if you could be on this podcast because, we're just curious about real estate in general, but especially in light of COVID-19, I think a lot of people are probably curious about whether or not real estate has been impacted and how to be most strategic, or just sort of be educated about, whether or not this is a good time to buy, sell, trade, look out your window, et cetera. And we thought maybe you would have some good answers to those questions.
Absolutely. We're actually really lucky. Real estate is doing very well in Lamorinda. And it really comes down to supply and demand. And so what's been happening with this COVID environment is that our supply is lower. And our supply is lower because we have a lot of people who are entering the senior stage of their lives. And because of COVID, they are not selling their homes. So they are choosing to age in place. And thus, the number of homes we have coming to the market is lower. You then take demand, and demand is enormous because people are really re-looking at their lives. Imagine you're a young couple, you live in San Francisco, you've got dual incomes, and you've got 2 kids. And now all of a sudden you have 2 bedrooms, you have no yard, you are homeschooling your children, you are working from home, you are trying to conduct your entire life out of that 2-bedroom apartment or condominium. And so people are saying help. They can't live in their current living situations. So many of them are joining together with families. They need their parents, they need help. And so they are looking for different housing options. So for us in Lamorinda, that's a positive.
And what about the move to telework? It seems like, I work in the city. My husband does as well, but he wasn't afforded telework options. But so many folks are now working from home. Has that positively impacted real estate for Lamorinda?
Yeah, it really has, because when you look at work from home, they can work from home, but they also need offices. They need a place to escape. They want to have work in one space of their home, and they want to walk away from that work. So everything's blurring together for people. All of a sudden, a day starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 11 p.m., and you have to make sure it's not just all work. So how do you do that confined to your home? So separate space is enormous. Indoor-outdoor lifestyles are also very popular. And people just need different zones. So because of that, they are re-looking at housing and making some internal moves around our community.
And I would imagine just the fact that you are now, I guess I would say, I imagine that one of the attractive things is that the lack of commute with teleworking is a real big pull to now you can live somewhere and actually stay there and spend all of your time, work and play in the same place.
Absolutely. And people, as they get used to this, are getting better and better at it. So at the beginning, they struggled. Now they're figuring out what their needs are and how to do it. And they're also realizing that they don't necessarily have to go back to work. So many companies have pushed people out to mid 2021. And that's an unknown, even if they're going back 2021 midsummer. So knowing that, they're adapting and they're adjusting. And again, they're making moves as a result of that. They're also excited about getting hours back in their day. So hours for fitness, hours for family, things that they didn't necessarily have because they were commuting. Many people, I'd say not many, but several people that we have worked with have been commuting, up to 2 hours a day.
Right. Yeah. Myself included. I mean,
Yes.
It's absolutely, for years when I didn't have kids It was fine, but a couple years ago, I got to the point where I'm like, I'm done. I'm done
Yes.
commuting. I'm done being on BART.
Mhm.
The minute I got off BART and got back to Lafayette, I felt like I exhaled, and it
Yes.
was like a whole new world. But just my mental health, I've just really realized after all those years, it really impacted it.
No, it really does. And so people don't want to go back to that. So they are liking this more simple lifestyle. And the thought of getting back in a car or hopping back on BART is just not something that's in their dream anymore, in their plan.
Right, right. So people aren't necessarily selling who are already anchored in La Miranda. Are people buying? Is there actually an uptick in
Yes.
demand?
Yeah. So it's interesting. We look at our market had been balancing at the end of 2019, and we started out 2020 doing well, but nothing wild. We weren't expecting a year where we were going to go up 10% in value. We thought, oh, 2, 3, 4% at most. And what's happened is if you look at that and you take the level now, you can literally look at the chart where it comes out fairly even, goes down in this huge dip, and now has escalated up much higher than where we started the year. So people are back to seeing multiple offers. We are seeing price increases. But you have to remember too, that's at price points where the majority of people are. So that's not necessarily the 4, 5, 6, $7 million house. That is the, $1 million to $2.5 million house. And so that's the range where we see a lot of activity taking place.
Interesting.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I guess that was sort of goes to my next question. Who is sort of the avatar of people knocking on your door, proverbially, to explore real estate in this area? Is it the family of four coming from Silicon Valley or the city? Is it the big families? Who is it? Is it single person?
No, it's absolutely families. So it's families that are coming from the peninsula, they're coming from the San Francisco area, they're coming from Oakland, Berkeley, and they're coming through the tunnel. And that's typically our parade. But definitely families who need space and really want the dream of that indoor outdoor lifestyle. You're also seeing parents, so parents of those families that are coming to help, saying, my kids are moving here. I'd like to find something small and need to be part of their lives. They need me part of their lives in this environment. So it's families and parents. And we're actually even seeing a lot of families coming over asking for guest bedrooms, asking for guest houses, that extra detached space that they can use for family that's coming in and out to help them throughout the year.
Yeah. So, what do you tell when someone comes in and it says, "Oh, I'm exploring La Miranda, but I'm also exploring Marin. I'm also exploring the South Bay." I mean, there's so many different little, um, bubbles that you can, such different micro environments that you can choose to land in the Bay Area, and they're very different.
They are very different.
What do you share with people as far as like, okay, if you're interested in La Miranda, this is what you'll get in contrast to some of these other places people might be exploring?
Absolutely. So for me, La Miranda is really all about community. So it is an amazing place to live, and you can do everything you need in this community. So, let's say you do get off the BART train and you come home from work and you need a birthday present for a child. You need to pick someone up at sports. You need to go to the grocery store. Everything can be done here. You don't need to leave your community for your lifestyle. So I really like that. And then you put excellent schools are icing on the cake, and they're the driving force that are bringing people here, and they keep people here, but then they stay for their lifestyle.
I hear dogs in the background.
Yes, I've got 2 golden retrievers, and we've got a new pool suite, and one has decided the pool suite's his friend. So lots of activity around the pool suite. My neighbors probably wonder what's happening. Yes.
Dana, I want to go back for a second and ask a little bit about your time in La Miranda. Like, how did you arrive in La Miranda?
Do you know I was born and raised in Lafayette? So my family, I was born at John Muir Hospital. My sisters and I were the first 3 sisters to be born at that hospital. which I laugh at now that it's such a large hospital. But my family started in Danville and quickly moved to Lafayette and then stayed.
Okay.
So I am a local girl who came back and really have never left.
In which community do you live in?
I live in Lafayette, and that's where I've been the entire time.
Okay. So here's
Mhm.
my next question. And I of course pontificate on the answer to this with absolutely no data behind me all the time. What would you say are the differences if someone says to you, I'm interested in Lamorinda, and then they say, but there's three communities. It's Orinda, it's Lafayette, it's Moraga. What's the difference between them? What are you making choices about when you distinguish of which area you're going to target?
Absolutely. So it's really interesting to me when you look at them geographically. They kind of form an L shape, or I guess you could say a V. But Lafayette is a little bit busier. So you've got a little bit more hustle and bustle, but that means you've got a downtown that's really grown over the years. So you've got shops and you've got restaurants and you've got fantastic schools and you've got a bike trail system that weaves through it. So you've got the iconic reservoir. So it's got this great indoor outdoor vibe, but it also has a pretty hip town and an amazing library. So Lafayette's got everything you need. But not everybody wants the hustle and bustle of Lafayette. And that's when they tend to pick Moraga. Moraga is a little bit more rural. You still can see the iconic pear orchards that have always been there. You have St. Mary's College, sleepier downtown. It's broken up. You've got Ream, and then you've got downtown Moraga. You have a farmer's market. Moraga also has the trail that comes through it, but it's definitely a sleepier town. And you do go through Lafayette or Orinda to exit Moraga. If you are looking for quintessential old world feel, a hillier environment, that's Orinda. So Orinda's got Orinda Country Club. They're a little bit closer to San Francisco. So for people who want a shorter commute, Orinda is ideal. Orinda's downtown hasn't changed as much over the years as Lafayette. So it's not as busy as Lafayette, but it's still absolutely charming. It's a little bit more old world feel, in my opinion, in Orinda. And then you can, in Orinda, have a level property or you can have a view property. And there are many more, winding streets that give you view properties in Orinda.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, for me, I'm somebody who came from Arizona and Colorado, and I love big sky. So
Yes,
for me, I love Moraga. It was really clear immediately upon driving around which community I felt connected to.
yes,
Having lived in Lafayette in sort of a rental just to get a vibe for Lamorinda, which was a great idea. I liked it. I was right downtown. I was the town center apartments, and I did love that sort of walking experience to be able to go out for Indian food at SWAT or Pizza
yes,
Antica. But when I got to Moraga, when we started looking at houses, it was a no brainer for me because it was big sky, big stars, hills with the cows you saw on them from your window,
yes.
etc. And then
Larger open spaces.
open spaces, big time. And
Mhm.
Orinda, it sort of reminds me a little bit of the old New England. You sort of the windy roads, the houses that are sort of nestled in the woods, a lot of privacy, but very much not who I am. But
Mhm.
for other people, exactly what they're looking for.
You know what? I love it because a family can come through, and it's really interesting because you could be a Moraga person easily, or someone from Lafayette, or someone from Miranda. There's pros to each community that are so strong
Yeah.
that we find that people come to us, and they might come to us saying we want Lafayette, and end up in Moraga and become Moraga's biggest cheerleader, or they could end up in Orinda and be really happy there. So we find that people don't come here and end up in a community they don't like. Wherever they land, they absolutely love it. And it's just like the elementary school. So they are concerned when they come, should we be at Burton Valley Elementary, or should we be at Lafayette Elementary, or what about Ream, or what about Wagner Ranch or Sleepy Hollow? And they ask us about all these schools. And what we find is the next call we get when they've outgrown their home 5 to 10 years later is we absolutely love where we are. And our one wish is that we remain at the same elementary school. We love our elementary school.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what school that is. And that says something so amazing about this community, that we have this network of schools that people absolutely adore.
Right.
And I love that. It's my favorite call to get. It's just magical when they become part of a community and they want to remain part of that community.
Yeah. And I've traveled around a lot and lived in a lot of different places at 47. But I do think when you get a little bit older, it's just harder you don't have the time to connect with people to form those bonds. It takes years where it used to take 15 minutes. And so
True.
I do think once you've sort of established those bonds, it's harder to uproot because you are resetting what is probably the most important thing about your life, which is having community.
Yes, it is.
So I can really see that, the people who we bought from here in Moraga, they went across the street to a bigger home in the Campo neighborhood.
Yeah, it's so classic. It's classic,
Yeah.
which is why I giggle. It is what this community is about, and I love that. How lucky are we to live in a place that you don't want to leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that people come to you and you're sort of helping to shop them around and show them the choices. But I would imagine a lot of people, you are a coach for people to
Mhm.
help figure out what they want. They come here a little bit, maybe not fully formed with their desires for what a
Correct.
house would be or what a community would look like. Can you sort of walk us through that part of your discussion, which probably is happening from the minute they walk in or first make contact with you till they're about to actually, you know, say, yes, we'll go on contract with this house. How do you do that sort of social work in
Mhm.
helping people to make sure they get the right match?
It's a really good question. So, what's fun is we actually get our education from living here, but also from the sellers. We have all of our sellers write a love letter about what they have loved living in their home. And it's always about their home, but it's also about their neighborhood and their community. So, we are educated constantly about different pockets of Lamorinda. And so when a buyer comes, it's really about asking a lot of questions. For us, it's a time to listen. So it's to ask the questions that pull out the answer that helps us guide them. So it's what's important to them. How do they envision spending their time on weekends? Do they like outdoor recreation? Are they backyard pool people? Do they want to join a recreation community? What are their priorities for school? High schools, it's really interesting because the language programs at the high schools are different. So you could go to Miranda and take Latin, or you can take German at Campolindo, or you can take, a Spanish class at Apollonis. So just asking questions, learning about their children, learning about their paths. What paths do they follow throughout the day? Do they like a larger footprint, a smaller footprint? Do they like big sky? Can they navigate hills? Do they have 16-year-olds who are learning to drive, and are they worried about drivers wandering through the Orinda Hills? You name it. It's questions and time together. And that's what's most invaluable for us in helping guide people.
Yeah, I do remember again, like I don't want to take this back to me so much, but I
Mhm.
remember when I was driving around with you and some people on your team, and what struck me was how much you guys knew about the area.
We do.
Whether it be, oh, I'm not sure about that area. It's got an electrical grid. I mean, you knew everything, but you wouldn't have
And
known that if you weren't from the community.
yeah, that's why being local is enormous. It's huge. And,
Yeah.
we take people, we tease them, we call it our 2 hour tour, our Gilligan's Island tour, but we often say to them, come on out, hop in a car. Now with COVID, we get on our speakerphone in our car and they get on their speakerphone in the car behind us. And we talk by speakerphones as we drive through neighborhoods, telling
Interesting.
them about the people that we know that live in the neighborhood, about the amenities of that specific neighborhood. Is it walk to Camp Lindo High School? Is it close to the bike trail? Is it walking distance to the reservoir? What is it that makes that neighborhood special? And when we do that, we also can look at homes architecturally. Some people like ranch style homes. Some people do not. Some people want modern or mid-century modern. There's not a lot of that in Lamorinda, but there are some pockets of it. So once you get to know a person by doing that 2-hour tour, you learn a lot, and then you can help direct. Again, and then we go back to those seller love letters. And each time we get a love letter, we learn about a community and how it's changed.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that's invaluable. You have to stay current. So for me, it's really important to work on both the buying and the selling side of the business. You can't just be a realtor that only sells, or a realtor that only works with buyers. Our team specializes that way, but the team as a whole works with both, so that we're constantly talking about buyer mentality and seller stories and trying to match people.
So that takes me to my next question. And I didn't even think about the fact that how do you take people around in the COVID environment? And the fact that you're caravanning with cell phones is fascinating to go through neighborhoods.
Thank goodness for Bluetooth. Or I'd run every light in town. You have to, you're driving and talking and thinking. So sometimes it's funny to watch.
So what are you doing about getting people into homes? Are people going into homes right now?
They are. So everything has evolved throughout COVID. And so at the beginning of the year, I felt like a roller coaster. We pivot every time a rule changes. So the rule has gone from you are not allowed to show a home to you may only show a vacant home to right now we're in a phase where we can show an occupied home, although that could quickly change and go back to just an unoccupied home. So we're having to pivot. There are no open houses. There are no brokers tours. So you cannot have mass gatherings in houses anymore. The rules as of today are that you may have one agent and up to 2 people in a house at a time. They need to go in by appointment individually. The buyer's agent that's with them must wipe down anything that they touch. And then you must have a period where the house can air out. So let's say a 15-minute period before the next party comes in. So what we have done as a team is we have really, really suggested our sellers leave. It is very difficult to stay in an occupied home and show it. Imagine we used to get 50 to 150 people through a house on a weekend open house or a Tuesday broker's tour. Now we have to get those people in on a 1-by-1 basis. So we've literally gone to using an app called Calendly, where agents go on and make an appointment. We as a team have chosen to only have appointments every hour on the hour. Part of that's because realtors are late. We don't want people overlapping. We want the house have a time to freshen in between. So that literally means that if you are a seller starting at 8 in the morning and going until 8 to 9 at night, someone is coming in your house every hour on the hour most days. Almost impossible to live in. And so it is far better to leave your house, especially now when our numbers are going up in Contra Costa County. We could reverse and go back instantly in a day's notice to showing of unoccupied homes only. Well, what do you do if you're on the market and all of a sudden you can't show your house if you're not living in it? So we've asked either our sellers to leave, to just go ahead and move, or we have asked our sellers to leave for a 10-day to 2-week period so that we can get their house on the market and into contract prior to their coming home.
Interesting.
So it's definitely a more planned out process for a seller. It takes time, and it takes time to figure out where they're going in this COVID environment.
So Dana, put on just your seller's cap for a minute. What are the most helpful things to not to maintain, that's not my question, how can somebody increase the value of their home? What are some of the sort of little nibbles they can do, the little things they can, At what room would they add? What would they renovate in order to increase value in a home?
Absolutely. The very first thing is to make sure your home is in good condition. So get a handyman in, have an inspection done, learn what's wrong, and get a handyman to fix the basics. Because if you have leaking plumbing or you have electrical problems that are health and safety, you're going to have an issue when you sell it. So make sure your home is kept in good condition. Maintain the systems that operate your home. That's my first advice. Second advice is paint. Fresh paint does wonders. So fresh paint, new carpet, or current flooring really matters. So most of our sellers prior to market will pre-inspect, do all the handyman type work. They'll make sure that they've got fresh paint inside and out, and they'll make sure that their flooring is clean. Those are the key things. If you are looking to enhance value to your property, you have to think lifestyle. How are people going to live in your house? Where are they going to watch TV? Where are they going to work? Where are they going to have a meal? Do they have a place where they can work with a closed door? Do you have a space for a guest? And then how does it feel? What's that indoor-outdoor lifestyle? What are your windows like? What is your backyard like? What are you looking at? Just planting a beautiful tree outside of a window can make all the difference in the world if you look out of your master bedroom window and all you look at is a solid fence. Make sure that fence is stained. Add some vines to the fence. Add a tree. Add focal points outside of your windows so that you feel good every window you look out.
So how important is landscaping?
Landscaping is important. We always tease that we know what's coming to market by following the landscapers in the black bark. We call it micro black bark. Sure. And anytime you see new fresh black bark being added to a yard,
they're out of there.
A realtor's involved because it makes everything look richer when you add that dark brown bark. So plants pop, pictures are pretty. So landscaping is important. It's this indoor-outdoor lifestyle. You're trying to invoke a feeling. And it's a feeling of calmness when you look out of a window and you see a beautiful tree, or you see a hummingbird, or you see flowers. It's not really a feeling of calmness when you look out and see a stark fence. Mm-hmm. So how do you just create emotion? Real estate's often emotional, and it's an emotional purchase. Emotional houses are the houses that sell better than any house. And you can have a charming older house be emotional because of how it feels when you open up the door. So emotion.
Now put your buyer's hat on.
Mm-hmm.
When you are walking somebody into a house, virtually or in reality in the past, what are your eyes looking at to make sure that you can walk out of that house and say, this is a good one and this is why?
Very first thing you do is, how does the floor feel that you're walking on? What is the condition? You can tell pretty instantly if there's foundation problems, if a house has been well maintained. When you walk in and when you see cracks and when you feel dips in the floors, instant red flags go up. And so we're really looking at condition.
Okay, interesting. Great. Mm-hmm. So Dana, do you love your job?
I love my job. It has been a dream career and something I get to do day in and day out. But the families that I meet are amazing. And being able to live in a community and give back to that community is a feeling that I wish everybody could experience.
If you were not a real estate agent,
mm-hmm.
and you had to pick one other career path, what would it be?
I love architecture and building. So it would be something in a similar industry, but along those lines.
Mm-hmm. I want to also mention the Lamorinda love stories.
Yes.
Can you share what those are and how that idea was conceived of a couple months ago?
Absolutely. So they started the day Shelter in Place started. And it's really that good news movement. And what we wanted to do is I wanted to support the community that supports me. So I wanted to give back by sharing stories of people doing good in their community, of businesses thinking outside of the box, of nonprofits, stepping up and helping. So anything that I could do that shared this community. And so we've actually kept that love story Instagram posts, Facebook posts going every single day since COVID started and we went into that first shelter in place. And it's been amazing. The people that email me, that ask me about the love stories, that talk to me, that share their love stories, make my heart sing. It's been something that's been positive in an just not a normal environment.
Yeah. So I have them come to my email.
Good.
Be on your email list.
I love it. So you get them once a week and you get to read the list.
Exactly. I get the aggregated list.
Yes. It has been an amazing way to just be a connector of this community. And that's something I love doing.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Is there a particular love story that has touched you?
It's interesting. There are so many love stories that have touched me. There was a man in Lafayette that people call Papa John in a neighborhood that has really been one of the chicken gurus of Lafayette, where he has taught people how to raise chickens at their home. And it was I believe that was his 90th birthday, and the entire neighborhood came out to sing to Papa John and celebrate Papa John. And that touched me. Old and young and all ages, and showing your children what it's like to be a good neighbor and to celebrate someone who's given back is really a cool thing to see. Mm-hmm. That was one of my favorites.
Nice. Maybe is Papa John going to be the person you refer me to for my podcast?
No, that's going to be Jay Lifson. So
I have Jay.
He is incredible. That man and what he does for the city of Lafayette. He is just a neat man.
Yes. All right. Well, let's move to that portion of the interview then. This is now, first of all, thank you so much. This is very, very interesting.
You're welcome.
And I knew that you would be able to, nail this because you've got so much history and so much credibility and just so much experience. And Dana Green and the Dana Green team are the real estate mavens of Lamorinda.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It's been fun to talk about it.
Yeah. So for the lightning round, I'm going to just ask you a couple of very quick questions.
Okay.
And you can just go ahead and give me your answers and then we'll wrap up.
Perfect.
So my first question for the lightning round, Dana Green, is what is one thing that you love about Lamorinda?
The sense of community.
What is one thing that people would be surprised to know about you?
Let's see. My two best friends have been my best friends since I was 6 years old, and we met in Lafayette. So still my best friends, and I am 54. So almost 50 years of friendship.
That's great. That speaks very highly of you.
Thank you.
And my last question that we just did a preview to, a little teaser, was who's one person in Lafayette that you know that you think I should know for this podcast?
Yes, and that is Jay Lifson. So Jay is the director of Lafayette's Chamber of Commerce, and talk about a man who exudes community. He's a connector. He wakes up every day giving back to a place that he loves and making sure that it's the healthiest place possible to live.
Yep. Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce in Lafayette really is quite something.
It is.
They do a terrific job.
I love it. And I love watching them through all of this. We both did a hashtag Lafayette Strong on something, and they've kept that going, and they really are there to support the community and the businesses inside of it. Yeah.
Well, Dana, thank you so much for everything you've shared.
Thank you.
I wish you a wonderful rest of the summer and continue to bring cool people to our community.
That's a deal. I can do that easily. Thank you again, Jennifer. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.